Hey, everybody, coming at you with a little bit longer look at the death of Robin Hood beyond the minute version I did. So, this is for people who maybe want to talk a little bit more about it, look at it a little bit more, apply it to kind of classroom that we could do as teachers, as social studies teachers, how to use this movie in class to start discussions, dialogue. So again, as you know, trying to watch 100 movies this year, talk about them, using this platform to process as I see this movie. So it's been a couple hours, and I've had some time to sit with this movie a little bit more. And so there's just a lot of thoughts about this. I think it's there's something about it that is so hauntingly beautiful. The acting is so good. Like, Hugh Jackman is really good in his part. Just again, it's a part he's played before with Logan, with Jean Valjean, the suffering old man who's seen battle after battle in his life and has now come to the realization that death is upon him, and thinking of the consequences and the cost of the violence that he lived under. And not to say that he's not doing a bad job. I don't think there are many people who play it like Hugh Jackman does. He just has a way about him. Um, Jodie Comer does a fantastic job um, of playing kind of, I'd say, a mystery for most of the movie. But then, as things unravel, um, the careful kind of mask that she's been creating also unravels. And I think she does just a dynamite job. It's like I said, the acting is really good. Bill Skarsgård is Little John. The kids in the movie, everybody's just there's something though that's just missing. I don't know. I get the point of it. Living out the consequences of your actions, regret, redemption, all those things. But there's just a lack of, I don't know. It seems that so much was done to deconstruct the myth of Robin Hood and the legends of Robin Hood, that became the purpose of the film, was just to absolutely deconstruct and destroy without kind of leaving the heart of Robin Hood. And I know Robin Hood's been done a lot. Like, we have Errol Flynn, which I love Errol Flynn, Adventures of Robin Hood. If you've seen it, go see it. I grew up on the Disney Robin Hood, and obviously such a memorable, great movie that Funko Pop doesn't usually do every character in a Disney cartoon, but almost every single character in Robin Hood has a Funko Pop, and I have them all. Robin and Marion with Sean Connery, Audrey Hepburn, obviously Robin Hood Men in Tights, Mel Brooks, classic. Robin Hood Prince of Thieves was, my junior high years. And then obviously Robin Hood Men in Tights is meant to spoof it, but there's a heart, there's an entertainment to Robin Hood, right? And the legend of Robin Hood that just kind of gets stripped bare in this. And I get it. Again, it's deconstruction and looking at that, but it lacks any semblance of joy. I guess that's kind of where it's like, if you think about, like I mentioned in the 1 minute, I think about Unforgiven or Young Guns 2. These are all deconstructed myth stories. The cowboy, the long suffering, and Young Guns 2, Billy the Kid, having to face Emilio Estevez playing Billy the Kid, having to face the wake of the consequences of what he wrought, right? When you think about traveling around with, Lou Diamond Phillips' character and so forth, and how they have to suffer, Doc Scurlock, and they have to finish the game, right? Because there's no way they're ever getting out of this prison that they've created for themselves. And so this is a little bit in that, just it lacks points, some connective stuff. The first act is very graphic, which was kind of cool. It felt a lot like Sisu. And showed you the violence that he lived under. And I gotta say, for history class, if you're thinking about using this for class, I've been actually thinking about this a lot. So my daughter and I went on her senior year trip to Los Angeles and Las Vegas. So she's graduating next year, so we went out there, went to see No Doubt at the Sphere, but also she was really interested in seeing the Medieval Torture Museum in Los Angeles, which there's one in Chicago too. And if you've never seen it, it's actually really educational. And it got me thinking a lot while we were in there, looking at these devices that humans invented to just absolutely, obviously torture each other, to cause and inflict the maximum amount of pain, to keep anyone at bay who may be thinking of doing these things as a deterrent, right? And just some really horrible things like a saw that you'd flip someone upside down and from the natural point of a sawing inflection, right? And so there's a line in this movie about balance, which I found really kind of profound. She talks about a knife, like a knife can be used for killing, but a knife can also be used to eat food. And that balance is always interesting with humanity. And I'm going to think about this in class. I'm going to think about that balance. Like, we live in a world of two different humanities. One that wants to use our brains, our science, our gifts for analysis and critical thinking to further humanity, and another who wants to use those same gifts to subdue humanity, to prevent progress, right? And this has always been the case. And I think about this at that torture museum. These engineers who engineered these tools of destroying humanity, if they had used their engineering minds and gifts for the positive, what couldn't have been done? And I think about this in the concentration camps I visited, like Auschwitz. You had doctors, you had teachers working at these camps who went to medical school, who became teachers to help, and instead used their talents to do despicable things to human beings. What if they had used their gifts for the positive? And I think we live in, still in this world where people want to progress humanity to a peaceful place, a place of enlightenment. And there are other people, if we remove the Eighth Amendment, who would just utterly destroy humanity. And I talked about that at the Torture Museum. Like, it should be called the Why We Have the Eighth Amendment Museum. And, thank goodness for the Enlightenment and this idea of moving forward to a more peaceful society, to take the worst instincts. Madison talked about the better angels of our nature, why we need government, because, people aren't angels. And you see that there, and you see this in this movie, which I think is interesting if you're to use this in class, that same idea. Like, I thought about at the Torture Museum, this kind of world. Like, we often think about time traveling. If I could time travel back to the Middle Ages or things. And at that Torture Museum, we realized if you time traveled back, our minds and our kind of life that we live now would not be able to process what we're seeing. Torture, public destruction in the streets, people wearing shame masks walking around. And this would have been life, right? Like, it wouldn't have been anything to be a little kid walking by and seeing somebody being sliced apart, or the flaying eagle where they, you go to the Torture Museum, you'll see. And this movie looks at that, this violent world that Robin Hood came up in. And I thought about this too, why it's interesting. So I've always been a huge Robin Hood fan, and I had a book. I actually brought my book. Let's see if I can get this in. Howard Pyle, Robin Hood, that I had in childhood. I don't think you can pick that up, but it's not preparing. But anyway, have a minute here. The last chapter of the book is about the death of Robin Hood, and that's where I think essentially this comes from. He goes to an island in Northern Ireland where a prioress bleeds him out like a leech and just drains his blood. And obviously, like I said, the title of this film is both literal and figurative, right? He literally dies, which is the point of the film, like, the movie There Will Be Blood. And also it works to destroy the myth of Robin Hood, which he strives in this whole movie to see. And I think it's really in the third act, when you start to come back to Robin Hood and the myth of Robin Hood, that you start to really feel this movie out. So really, I'm going to process this for a while, but you should check it out and see what you think. The acting is good. It's lacking something. Please let me know what you think.